This is an impression of our hotel in Scottsdale, particularly the swimming pool. And now we hear a lecture
Good morning,
of
everyone. My name is Forrest, but my original name is Masita, gray rattlesnake. And I come from the Sun Clan on my mother's side. I was named under my father's clanmanship. When we're born, we are given away at birth to our godparents. But my grandmother is the one that names me in the morning. How many seen Lion King? What? Lion King, the animated motion picture. Well, that is exactly how we are named. As the monkey held up the little cub, in our reversal, when we're at the end of our mesas, our grandmother will lift us up and then place a perfect ear of corn and encircle it around our heart and our chest. On the fourth encirclement, then she would give me my name and introduce me to my father, the son. This is the Hopi way. Also, I said to you that I was happy to see you all here, gathered here, and that as you travel safely onto your destination, and as we all unite together and put our hearts together as one, and we all will prosper, and then we will return home safely back to your families. And may we each live a fulfilled long life. That's what I said to you this morning. Every morning, Hopis will pray to our Father Son. So at 5 o'clock, 5:30, I'm up and I'm already either praying or singing to my Father. In native ways and religion are ways of looking at our gods is through the sun, because in our religion we have seen no great spirit come as a man before us. So we look at our son as the Father. Then our mother, as you know, everyone's mother is the children. So we, as Hopi say, we are children under one God. So even in all races are placed here to take care of our Mother Earth and our Father. And in between those, in nations here in America, we all honor things of nature. So throughout all the world, a lot of natives, no matter what culture, they look at nature, and nature is the one that teaches us mankind how to do things. But here in Arizona, how many traveled Arizona before? All right, how many can guess how many tribes here in Arizona? 10. Yeah. Okay, well, there's 23 tribes here.
Really?
Yes. They're all indigenous to these areas. Some of them were removed to different parts of the only tribe that really removed was the Apaches. But then some other tribes were removed from different areas to different parts of the areas in Arizona. And so they're still living in those areas with other tribes. Back in 1934, when a lot of things were going on during that time of counting our tribal system, our tribal members, a lot of our people were moved from the northeastern part down to the river tribes down in the Havasupai, Parker area. And so now you have river tribes. But in a lot of sense, we as Hopis and 7 tribes came out of Mexico. And a lot of the nomadic tribes or roaming tribes came from the northeastern part, coming down into this area. And that would include a lot of the Navajos, the Apaches, the Mojaves, also some of the Paiutes and the Utes. But Utes ended up staying in part of Nevada and part of Colorado. And then here in Arizona, you have desert tribes starting from Tucson all the way up to this area of Phoenix. And those are Akchin people, the Hopi people, the Gila River people, and also the Pima, Salt River Pima nations here, just right off here, left here next to 101 freeway. They are part of this great migration that came from south of Mexico, coming out of the Aztec Mayan culture. The Pueblos from New Mexico, also the Hopis and the Wallabites and the Havasupai also came from there. So as the migration started, a lot of those cliff dwellings were placed in a lot of different areas as they migrated. Some were, when they were traveling, they diverged out of there, and some settled in these areas. But then their languages changed a bit. But the designs that they carried on their basketry, pottery, were all very similar to one another. Today, you can still find that similarity among those tribes. But the practicing of religion is a little different. In the Akchin people, or the Hopi people, who is the closest one that lives to the border of Mexico with the Yankee people, they're still having trouble with the border issue down there. Some of them have dual citizenship. They carry on the United States, and they still also have families, and they still have citizenship within Mexico. So they go back and forth within their reservation, and that's just next to Tucson. Then you got some of the Cochans that live off by around Yuma, and they're also having a little bit of problems with the border system, because again, they also have a little reservation within the borders of Mexico. So they have that issue with that border issue. Then as you come up a little further, then you have the Akchin people. Then they have a large community of 3 bands of tribes within that Akchin. So they're known as the Akchin community. And what they do today is they provide a lot of the alfalfa through that area, growing, leasing their lands to a larger agricultural outfits as you go down there. The Hopi, they also do the same thing, but they mostly do the farming themselves down around in Sal's and next to Tucson. Then as you come up, you'll come up to the Gila River people. Then they're the ones in their ancestry that goes with the Pima. Their ancestry were called the Huka. And they're the ones who started to build canals through this area. And they used to farm a lot of the cotton through here, a lot of the beans. Today, Scottsdale, today's Tempe, Mesa, and part of Phoenix use those old century canals today. You can see one of the ruins here in Phoenix here on 44th Street in Washington called Pueblo Grande. You can actually go through the old ruins and then go into the museum. And you'll learn a little bit more on how they devised these canals, because it was very intricate. Because all this part of this area just was nothing but farm field. but there's still also their old ruins, not only in Phoenix, but down in Gila River also. So a lot of them lived off the desert. They used a lot of the guava plants and the blue palo verde trees, the beans that they would grind into meals, and also the prickly pear cactus. Today you see this all used in our restaurants. The prickly pear will grow buds before it blooms into the flower. When it comes red, if you're ever stuck in a desert and have no water, and you see these buds that are turning red, take one of those off, peel it up, and eat that. That is very good. It's sweet, it's juicy, and this is what they use to make their jams, their syrup, their dyes, their wine. The desert people will make wine out of the buds of those cactus fruits, and also the cactus out of the cholla cactus. So there's about 9 different types of cactuses here in Arizona, and each of these tribes will use those cactuses. With the desert people, today they still celebrate in one of their ancient winemaking ceremonies. So they'll go out and harvest the sorrel cactus. Sorrel cactus will grow those buds, and that's where the Pima and the Ochin and the Gila River people will use another plant stock called the century plant. It will grow very tropic, and they would take those shafts and knock those fruits off the sorrel cactus. And then that's when they would make their wine and also their jams and also their syrup and other things out of those things. And then also they would use the agave plant to also use as to tie some of their things that needs, like their corrals or their basketry. This is a fibrous plant. So when you take an agave plant, which is very thick, you take the peel, the top portion off. Inside are those almost like a whale's baleen, and you just strip them off, and they use that as their time strip. A lot of them then hunt it also. Javelinas, wild pigs, wild boars. Also the bighorn sheep that roam the mountain region in this area. They also had mule deer up around going toward closer to Mexico, so they hunted those. And out to the right, like I said, there's river tribes, Mojave, Cochans, Cocopah, Chimowabes. They then were using a lot of the Colorado River along that side, so they had tribes that also extended into California. And there, today, not too far from Yuma, is an old trading marking place where the people would put stones up, about 4 feet high, 4 regions, and then it looked like maybe 2 or 3 fields of football fields. And this is where a lot of the tribes from the river tribes, the tribe from the northeast, from the south, would come together and trade with one another. It's still there today. So in the river tribe, a lot of them used a lot of the plants that grew along there, so their homes were made like wigwams. So they made it up like wickiups, in dome shape or flat tops. Then their storage houses were placed on top. And they used also a lot of the Palo Verde trees, the beans out there, the cacti grew there, and also they were in part of what they called it's nothing but cactuses grew there. The sorrel cactus and also the chollas that were through there. That's what they used a lot. And they made sandals out of that. Can you believe that? Taking those cactus and making sandals out of that? Yeah, that's what they use. And they have their little museum. So all those river tribes today are farmers. A lot of them were nomadic. So like Mojave and Wachans were the most raiding tribes that came up through here. And they were more of the enemies of the Hanaagam and the Gila River and also the Pima Nation. They would come raid and so today they're the ones who store a lot of our vegetables, a lot of our melons, and all these good things that we see in the stores in our Arizona markets today. So they provide all that. The Pimas are the ones that grow a lot of the cotton. Today they are, you can see that cotton growing as you came into here on those fields on the left side, they're still growing. Once the cotton season's over, then they'll go into the alfalfa. And after that alfalfa, then again they would go into the different winter plants. Some of them are beans and some of them are grow flowers out there. So it looks very pretty out there. Mechanical type of garden that you'll see out there. But that's later, that's coming up later. It's very beautiful when you travel through there. Then as you go along the Colorado River and you go further northwest up there are the Paiutes. We got two bands of Paiutes up there. We got the San Juan Paiutes and the Kaibat Paiutes. They also roam in the regions of where there's mountain regions, forestry. They were part of in Utah, also a part of in Nevada today. But then some of their bands came into this part of Arizona, so they own small portions up there. Today they provide you with outdoor activities like going hunting, going camping, going nature walking up there. And there's a town that's close to there is Page, Arizona with Lake Powell. And they're right just above that. So you can actually go up there and enjoy that area. And then as you come up from the south through the desert people, then you're going to hit the Apaches. Oh, how many know about Apaches? I think everybody does. I think all the tribes in here know about Apaches too. Because they roam about 5 states. You know, they actually came from the northeastern part, just like the Navajos. Navajo and Apaches are like cousins, but their language is just a little different. Today, that animosity is still there, going back to the old ways, how they used to live. You know, they roamed quite a bit. But Apaches did a lot more roaming. They went all the way to California. And they also roamed here, they roamed in Texas, they roamed down into Mexico, and then they were also in New Mexico also. So they roamed quite a bit. And they themselves were gatherers of whatever bounty they would get from other tribes. But at times, they would have people come up to different tribes and barter with them. And they would make their dwellings like a wickiup. And their culture is based on what they call the Gong, or the mountain spirit god. How many have seen that spirit god, the mountain spirit god? He's all covered up, and then he got tablets over up here, and he's got bells all over his buckskin coming down. He holds a couple of altars in his hands, and these represent the 4 sacred mountains of the Apaches. You can tell where regions they come from on the designs on their tablets, also on their bodies. So we got 6 bands here in Arizona, We got some that also was a part of the Yavapai Nation. So there is a combination of Apache and Yavapai in some of these bands. Like in Prescott, their part, they're half Yavapai and half Apache. In Camp Verde, next to Sedona, they're also Yavapai Apache. Then here, down in Fort McDowell, which is about 20, 30 minutes away, they're also a part of that Yavapai Apache. Then the true Apaches are living along up on the eastern part of Arizona and the mountain regions, like in White River. They're known as the White River Apaches. Just below them is the San Carlos Apaches, and that's next to them is Globe, Arizona. Then just below Payson, which is what they call the Tonto Apaches. Then you got another one called the CBQ Apaches. So they're kind of all in the mountain region. Oh, come on in. Come on. Yeah, just get this easier. Yeah. And they, like I said, roamed all over the places, but at times they would come up into our area in the Hopi section, because they like, a lot of these tribes like what we did. We did a lot of pottery, baskets, a lot of our piki bread were made, a lot of different foods that we made would last over a month, because we would dry some of these foods and store them out open, and we still do that today. So they bartered a lot of these things from us so that they would travel with that, especially the piki bread and the dried peaches that we would grow back in the 15th century. Before the peaches came, we had also using the different plants that were out there, which they didn't have in their region. Today, the Apaches will provide you outdoor recreation, like hunting, like fishing. They got 13 lakes in their area up in the White Mountain region. You can even rent a whole lake to yourself and have a big party up there. But then they also have a ski resort. And they also have nature walks. They got wild black bear, brown bear. They got eagles up there. They got they got two types of deer up there and elk. So you got quite a range of hunting up in these mountain regions. So you can go up there and get your tribal license and be able to either hunt or fish up there. It goes by days. So these are Apaches that gave us all trouble. Then the Navajos branched off on them, and they're the ones who started encroaching in within our area. At one time, we as Hopis hold that whole region up in the Four Corners area all the way down to Flagstaff and part of down to Sedona. Sedona, you'll see one of our ancestral rooms called Montezuma Well or Montezuma Castle. Yeah. That's where inside the cave is an old cliff dwellings that is very well preserved, just like in Colorado and Mesa Verde. You'll see those houses up there, and it dates back to around 300 to 400 AD. And today we still make our pilgrimage to these old sites. But the Navajos came from that area and started roaming and started settling in these areas. And so we actually fought against these for encroachment against these Navajos. Then in the 15th century, when the Spanish came, that's when we asked the Spanish government to help assist us to drive them back into New Mexico, which they came from. They helped us a bit, but then they re-entered into to our area. Then in the 19th century, then this is when a lot of our court battles began. And then finally settled in 2005 was the final settlement of our land issues. But the Navajos, they were almost like Apaches, but then they changed their dwellings into hogans because they saw the Hopi buildings made out of clay and also rocks. But instead of using rocks, they used timbers like out of juniper and pine and build them up like an igloo. Then they covered it up with clay, so it was very well insulated. The first hogan was without the clay. It was just like with timber. That was it. So you still had not very insulated housing, so until they saw the pueblos and they started putting that mud on it. Today, Navajo has some of the largest region here in Arizona and known to be probably the second largest tribe in the United States. They consist of over 250,000 tribal members. The first tribe, the largest tribe in America, how many think you can guess that? Somebody said it. Exactly. Cherokee is the first number nation in America because they were then influenced first through the Spanish people that arrived to us here. So on the eastern part coast, they met all the eastern tribe, and Cherokee was one of the largest tribes on the eastern coast. Then the Europeans came, then they also went and integrated with the Cherokee people. So today you have a lot of bloodlines within the Spanish people and Cherokee. You got a lot of blood within the Europeans and the Cherokee. So I work in a resort also, but every time a person comes to me, I got native blood, and I would always say Cherokee. Yeah, I do. I said, well, that usually is the first thing I ask is what region they come from, and when it's from the East Coast, that's usually what I'll get. Cherokee. To say, well, that's how it is. And all these things change it throughout America and all the nations here. But then here in Hopi, we're very traditional. You won't find a tribe now that is actually still living within their traditional ways and practicing it. Either because of assimilation or because of relocation. A lot of tribes that were relocated from one region to another, like the Cherokee, lost a lot of their cultural ways. Cherokee was placed in Indian country, which was Oklahoma back in the 18th century. And there they live today. Some of the bands from the Apaches were sent to Oklahoma also back in the 18th century. And there was one of the famous, well, he's not really a chief. People think Geronimo was a chief, but he was more of a medicine man. He saw visions, but then the government placed him as a chief, but he was one of the last tribes to give up his rifle because he wanted to continue living the Apache way, roaming his country. But he actually came out of the Chiricahua Apache. And there's 4 bands of those in his Chiricahua Apache. And so he would also ask the mountain spirits god for guidance when he went to war, or how he would take care of his people, and they would perform for him. And through that, he would take his visions and then he would guide his people through them. In Hopi, we almost, some tribes use some of these plants that are drugged up like peyote. It's legal for natives to use that, but we ourselves don't believe in drugs that would give you visions. We still practice it by purification, by placing ourselves in kivas and meditate, and not taking any salt or meat for 4 days. And through that, then we smoke our natural tobacco, which is gathered up in the San Francisco Mountains. And we still do this today. And our kivas, which are underground houses, is our churches. And there we practice a lot of our teachings to our young when they come of age, up until 12 or 10 years old. Then we start teaching. So our godparents play a very vital role in our lives. I've got a godfather that's 70-some years old, and he's still telling me what to do. Even though I know it, but by respect, I still listen, and I still do it the same way he keeps teaching me. So they're never just there for that one purpose, to name you and also be a part of, just to see you maybe on birthday or things like that. That's not like that. He's there for you in life. So when you're a child, you follow your godfather's footsteps, not your father's. So everything that your godfather teaches you is what you know and what society is in. In Hopi, we got branches of societies like the state society, like the women's society, like the priest society, the non-priest society, and the flute society, and we got 2 more others, but then you were placed wherever your godfather went. So I was placed in the priesthood when I was born, and I was given away to my godmother, and my godmother chose my godfather for me, and from then on I followed his footsteps. So today I'm a priest in my village where I come from. So we are the ones that make our pilgrimages through the old ancestral areas, like in Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and within parts of Nevada, and here in Arizona. All those cliff dwellings that you see throughout the different parts of these states, this is where we go. And we live on top of mesa tops that stands over 300 or 400 feet above sea level on plateau tops. Before, the villages were at the base. But until the Apaches and the Paiutes and the Navajos started raiding us, that's when we went back up into the tops. And so did occur some of our ancestors that also ended up going in caves that were very hard to get into. Today you'll still see footholds, and then they would use ladders up into their village because you had the river tribes and the Apaches coming constantly through this area. And another tribe that we bartered with a lot were the Kenyan. They're also a part of this migration, which is the Havasupai and the Wallapai. The Havasupai live in the Grand Canyon, and the Wallapai just live above them. So they're close cousins. When the cavalry tried to put them in the reservation, some of this group then ran into the canyon. So they couldn't take their horses or their big guns with them. So that's how they ended up staying down there. And today, there are some of their old ruins of housing along the walls of the canyon. And they were built almost like ours, that we built our houses out of sandstone and clay. And so they both provide you with the scenery of the beautiful Grand Canyon. And the guardians of the Grand Canyon. You go down into the Havasupai, which they live in the Grand Canyon. There's only 3 ways to get down there. Through helicopter, walking, and mule. That's it. And they are beautiful waterfalls. You go down there, when you look down into the Grand Canyon, the water's very dirty. But when you see their falls, they'll drop over 500 feet and then drop into a pond there. It's crystal clear blue. Yeah. You can just see the bottom right down there. Because from that fall, all that sediment just drops in sediment. And so they have 3 beautiful areas that you can go to today. A couple of years ago, they had a big flooding. So people from Italy came out and helped restore their trails, also restore some of the camping areas. And us Hopis went out there because they're kind of related to us, so we helped them in some of their buildings and also fixing the trail. And today, it created a couple more new falls because of the flooding. So they got a couple more falls down there that you can go see. But they have camping areas, they have a store, they have a small motel. Up on top of their cousin is a waterfall. Now, this is where, when they came up and they wanted to earn revenue for their tribe. So, you know, throughout America, Native people went into the casino business. They also did that, but it didn't work for them. So what they ended up doing was building a skywalk that overhangs the Grand Canyon about 75 feet out, and you walk on glass and look straight down into the canyon. Yeah. So this is what they went in, and this one brings the revenue for the tribes. Yeah. So they got different programs that you can do up there when you go up there today. Is that you can take a Hummer tour, you can take a helicopter tour. They're the only ones that can get this helicopter tour today. They used to do it in south side and north side of the Grand Canyon, but they no longer do that because quite a fatal accident occurred up there. The difference between the 2 canyons is that they're larger from the south rim and the north rim has a larger gorge, while the Wallapai Canyon is a little small because it's a little Colorado River. So there, you don't have too much of the turbulence that would occur on the small canyon, while they will do that in the large canyon, and that's what causes a lot of the fatal accidents. So they stopped that. And plus with the noise now, they have to go by Arizona law. So that was another thing. They stopped the helicopter tour while the Wallapais stay on their own land. So they control what needs to be done on their land. Yeah, so the noise factor didn't bother them because they have their part of their own law into there. In tribal law system, you follow 3 laws. Federal law, some of the state law, and then your tribal law. So it gets a little confusing if you get caught. Oh, what am I going to do at the end? But usually it's up to the officer. He can either give you a tribal ticket or a state ticket. If you did one of the major crimes, then it's a federal offense. Then you go into federal court. But all minor tickets are either tribal, so it's up to the officer. If you get if you get caught by a tribal police officer and say, oh, I hope I get a tribal ticket, say that because then it won't affect your driver's license. It won't go into the system because they got their own. When you get caught in the state and give you a state ticket, then it's going to cost you points. But in the tribal ticket, yeah, so it's a little different. But these are in some areas, not all tribal reservations are like that. So it's a little different. Yeah. In Hopi, we use a lot of the yucca plant. And these are baskets made of sifter baskets, and we clean our corn and the sap out of that. Today they're very intricate before, but it was just all green, and they would put their kernels here and toss it up, and all the sap would fall out. Today you call this design the rain cloud design. As you ever notice on those temples, it got those step-side designs. Some call it the stairway to heaven, but those are what we call the rain cloud design. And you'll see that down there on those temples in Mexico. This can last you a lifetime, because once it gets aged, the yucca plant will turn green, but the dye will still be there. I got some that goes back all the way to my grandmother's mother. So a lot of our stuff was handed down from one generation to the next in the family. This is the new thing that was also, well, not the new thing, another thing that they did before the board came to us. Rattles out of yucca. So they would bind these together, and they would put hoops in there instead of the valves. Today they put valves in there. Yeah, those little valves. But this is one of the things for your little child that you can play with and you can sing to. This one, how many collect these? In Hopi, this is called eagle. This is one of the sacred dolls that we carve out of cottonwood root. Out of the cottonwood tree, and the wood is used to carve these out. Today, you can see this throughout a lot of curious shops, a lot of shops, but you got to be beware, because in Hopi, we never had to put a pen in our artwork, so in art world, anybody can do this, because there's no restriction of it in being made. So we're trying to come up with a pattern where we can say no longer anybody make this. Our neighbors, the Navajo, have a large manufacturing doll making of this. So today